We've got a problem in the gaming community, and it's one I don't know how to solve. Level design. Now I know that's a very vague statement, which can mean a lot of things, from the look, to the layout, to the difficulty, to the size, but what I am specifically referring to is the theme. For example, if I said give me 3 random space levels from different games, probably wouldn't take you too long, right? Or if I said 3 random desert levels, also pretty easy. 3 random ice levels, no problem. 3 random lava levels, sure. 3 poison levels, 3 water levels, 3 temple levels, 3 city levels, 3 sky levels, 3 castle levels, 3 lab levels, 3 ghost levels, 3 cave levels, 3 dark levels. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so maybe you don't have specifics coming to mind, but tell me if I'm wrong. Do you think there's any of these archetypes that you haven't seen several times before? I don't know about anyone else, but it feels a little repetitive. And with open world games becoming more and more prevalent, it feels like good old-fashioned iconic levels are kind of dying out. It's not like there aren't games who still pull off these themes in unique and wonderful ways. Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, but it uses pretty much every generic level design in the book. Still, I can probably complete City Escape backwards blindfolded, so it must have done something right. It's just that last year when Black Myth Wukong dropped, I was about 75% of the way through the game and realized it hadn't really done anything all that unique in terms of level themes. First it was a forest, then a desert, then snow, then cave, then lava. And again, the levels aren't bad, but I just thought for a game about Chinese mythology, which tends to have some outrageous shit going on, there'd be a lot more variation. And then I got to the final chapter, and I saw this, and I was infatuated. I mean, it was stunning. A perfect blend of the classic idea of dueling at sundown with a new and mystical twist that just made it fucking epic, especially for a final boss fight. And then I unlocked the secret ending. Brother, this is what I'm fucking talking about. I didn't remember another game giving me a giant level since fucking Naruto Ninja Storm 4, and that was basically just QTEs. So it made me think, did Wukong get away with doing it because of the original source material it had to draw from? I mean, that shit was tame compared to some of the stuff in the original Journey to the West, but I don't think that's the case, because it reminded me of lots of other games that were just as innovative or more, which broke the mold in impressive ways without relying on the over-the-top mythology. And I wanted to talk about some of them. Before I start, just one more thing. Anything that's open world is disqualified, as I'm looking for self-contained levels only. Although, I may make a separate video at some point about open worlds. With that out of the way, let me start with a classic that I actually only played for the first time recently. Psychonauts. For those of you who don't know, Psychonauts released in 2005 on the original Xbox, PlayStation 2 and PC. It's a game about kids who have psychic powers, and pretty much all the levels take place in these imaginary worlds inside people's heads. The gameplay is still okay. There's a more up-to-date sequel that dropped in 2021, but that's besides the point. Because of the whole concept being imaginary worlds, Psychonauts could take as many liberties with level design as they damn well pleased. And boy did they. There's one level that even merges 2 people's mental worlds into one, causing it to become creepy and distorted. And that's one of the worst levels. It's hard to pick one singular level from Psychonauts because they're all so fun and unique, which is what really made me kick myself for waiting so long to play it, but it's pretty widely regarded that the Milkman Conspiracy level is the best. This isn't entirely because of the theme, of course, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Taking a relatively plain looking town filled with suburban houses and cul-de-sacs, then breaking it apart into weird floating islands, each with its own field of gravity, isn't something I can say I've seen before. Not a lot of games since have managed to impress me with its sheer variation, and remember, this was 2 decades ago. However, while we're on the topic of imaginary worlds, you know I gotta drop some Persona, baby. The concept is eerily similar to Psychonauts in the sense that it follows a group of young people literally going into people's minds to essentially cure them of evil. The main difference is Japan. They had to put Japanese sauce on it. In my opinion, it's not quite as varied as Psychonauts, and I've already made a separate video talking about how much the style carries Persona, but one level in particular felt like it encapsulated the feel of the whole game in a neat little bow. You see, the way you cure these evildoers is by stealing their heart, which is symbolized as some kind of treasure located in the mental palace of said evildoer. The game plays with this idea in various ways, some making more sense than others, but I think Madarame's palace is when the game truly picks up speed and embraces the Phantom Thieves as a concept. This palace takes place in a distorted museum with a prized painting being the treasure to steal. The enemies look like little night guards, you travel through paintings and into strange landscapes with beautiful colours and cool puzzles, signing it off with one of the better boss fights in my opinion. The idea of a museum level is one that needs to be explored more often, but I think it's going to be very hard for anything to beat Persona's execution of it. Honourable mention to Sai's casino level, which is a very close second. Another game which I think is an absolute masterclass of level design is Castlevania Lords of Shadow. I fucking love this game. And there's a nice blend of the usual ice levels, forest levels, poison levels, etc. But some of the more unique bangers include the steampunk style clock tower, the frustrating but creative toy box, and the impressive magnitude of the mountain fortress. But, in my personal opinion, nothing quite does it like the Necromancer's Abyss. Something this game does possibly better than any other game I've ever seen is cinematic flair. The landscapes are beyond stunning, and they fucking know it. You don't have any control of the camera, so they make sure to always put that bitch in the opportune spot to stunt on you. The Necromancer's Abyss is no exception. I mean, look at the way it starts, my dude. The Land of the Dead isn't a super unique idea, but it's the execution. The very first thing you do is move the sun and moon into tandem with each other, causing a solar eclipse. The constant swirling sands of time, the ancient skeletons that have become one with the environment, whatever the fuck this thing is. From a gameplay standpoint, there are definitely levels I think are more fun, but if we're talking innovation and breaking away from the same level tropes everybody seems to use, it's a tough break between this one and the music box level. It's a shame that one's so fucking annoying, otherwise it'd probably be here instead. So far, we've had a platformer, a JRPG, and a sort of hack and slash adventure game. However, I am very aware that it's a lot easier to be unique with your level choices when your game is more cartoonish and fantastical. Anything that's more grounded in reality will have a tough time breaking away from the usual snow levels, desert levels, and jungle levels. But that was not a problem for the age-old classic of Modern Warfare 2's No Russian. I know what you might be thinking, a level that takes place in an airport isn't unique at all. But the unique part is that it's crowded. Think about it. Every other airport level you can think of, from Max Payne 3 to Splinter Cell Blacklist to Rainbow Six Vegas, are all practically abandoned. Simply adding civilians, while obviously very impactful from a narrative standpoint, also shifts the entire theme of the level from a simple shootout to a full-on massacre. It's not long until the airport becomes just as quiet as its counterparts, but by then, it's strewn with bodies and the game slows its pace down considerably to let you fully take in just how much damage you just caused. It's a level that's infamous for its impact because of how unique it was in its brutality. Like I said though, games that are less grounded in reality have an easier time creating unique level designs. Enter Ultrakill. A game that answers the age-old question, what happens if we give robots enough speed to make Twitch streamers look tame? Honestly, I could pick literally any level from Ultrakill and it would make the list, but I think for me the one that stands out the most is 7-4 like antennas to heaven. Most of the game takes place in hyper-vibrant, colourful palettes in nonsensical, strangely laid out environments that sometimes don't seem to have any rhyme or reason. Then as you reach the end of the game, we meet this absolute monolithic war machine with an entire industrial factory on its back. Top it off with the occasional lightning strikes, the constant meteor shower overhead and the dark red sky, and you have something which feels epic in scale and apocalyptic in presence. Most of the levels in Ultrakill are quite short, especially if you're speedrunning, so there's not much else to say, but the visuals on screen speak for themselves. While we're on the topic of first person, a game that mastered a widely used concept and used it to create some of the best levels in history is Portal, both 1 and 2. I think the best example of this is Portal 2's Chapter 6, The Fall. Portal does a great job at making you feel uneasy, considering pretty much all the environments are brightly lit. In fact, you're pretty much trained throughout the entire game to look for the colour white as much as possible. They're also pretty small and self-contained puzzles for the most part. That is, until you get to The Fall. All of a sudden you see the background and the history of these weird and sadistic tests that you've been dropped into. That helpful and inviting white colour is now few and far between, and in its place are stupidly huge caverns with once modern technology that's been left to ruin. And now you've got to traverse this dark and damp underground, all while J.K. Simmons giving you a lore-filled voiceover. If you thought you were uneasy before, you definitely are now, and the sinister undertones are now front and centre. Not only is the theme of some kind of underground abandoned lab pretty unique, but the contrast with the rest of the game makes it stand out as one of the best to me. Lastly, I mentioned Sonic earlier as being a series which consistently uses old school level themes, but that does not mean it can't think outside of the box too. Although they do have a tendency to reuse ideas from time to time, the ideas they reuse are never seen outside of Sonic, so I'll give them a pass. Of all the games on Sonic's roster, I don't think any can best Sonic Heroes when it comes to variation. It has the iconic casino theme levels, the always present sunny seaside levels, the grind heavy levels, but these kind of levels exist in a lot of other Sonic games one way or another. One level theme they've used only a couple of times, but never as good as Sonic Heroes version, is the Egg Fleet. I mean, look at this shit! I don't even know how to put into words how cool this was to me as a kid. Jumping from ship to ship, the perceived danger of grinding so high up, the cannons firing at you, the actual scale being genuinely impressive too. It all culminates into one of my personally quintessential platformer experiences. Quick honourable mention to Sonic Riders, which had some of the fucking wackiest tracks I've ever seen in a racing game as well. To recap, I know that there's a lot more that goes into making a good level than the theme and the overall setting, and you can still use a popular level template and still make a great and memorable level. But with open world games becoming more and more popular nowadays, it feels like it's been a long time since I saw a level which made me go, wow, I've never seen this before, this is a cool idea. I wish more games would use this concept. I have 2 other video ideas which stem from this, so let me know what you'd prefer to see next. As mentioned, there's a lot of really cool open worlds that also create a unique atmosphere that I'd love to delve into, like Brutal Legend, Elden Ring, and Cyberpunk. Or I can stick to self-contained levels and talk about some of the best executions of commonly used themes. For example, what's the best ice level in gaming, what's the best lava level, the best space level, etc. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, as I am currently being held hostage by the algorithm to make Marvel Rivals content, so I need some other stuff to start popping off as well so I can quit my job and start a crypto coin. I'm joking, please don't call CoffeeZilla.